Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really controversial law in India. It's a law that started from conflicts way back in the day, but now it's at the very center of a modern battle. On one side, national security. On the other, the right to your own family's inheritance.
So let me ask you something that gets right to the heart of this whole thing. Could your family's history, something that happened long before you were even born, actually cost you your home today? It sounds crazy, right? But for thousands of people in India, this isn't some hypothetical question. It's their reality.
And look, this isn't just some dusty old law we're talking about. No way. It has huge, real-world consequences for literally everyone, from Bollywood stars all the way to regular folks just trying to sell a piece of land. This law has a very, very long and powerful reach.
Okay, so to really get what's going on, we've got to start with the basics. What in the world is enemy property?
Well, the definition is incredibly broad. We're not just talking about big, obvious things like forts or palaces. It's pretty much any property. We're talking land, buildings, company shares, even the money in your bank account, if it was owned by people or companies from countries that India has classified as enemies. And that's mainly Pakistan and China, going back to the wars in the past.
So, who's in charge of all this stuff? That would be a government official called the Custodian of Enemy Property for India, or CEPI for short. Now, don't think of this person as just a temporary caretaker. Oh no. It's more like a permanent, state-appointed manager who holds all the cards, all the rights, the title, everything. They have total, absolute control.
All right, so we've got the what. Now let's get into the how. How does this actually work? Where did it come from? And what gives it so much power today?
This timeline here is super important to understanding the whole story. It all started back in the 60s, during wartime, with these Defense of India Acts. They were meant to be temporary measures, allowing the seizure of assets. But then, in 1968, things got serious. The Enemy Property Act made it all formal. And then, and this is the real kicker, in 2017, some major amendments made the law even tougher, expanding the definition of enemy to include the legal heirs. So, what started as a temporary fix became a permanent and way more powerful law.
And these right here, these are the 3 unbreakable rules that give this act its incredible power. First, boom, all rights are handed over to the government's custodian. Second, and you've got to pay attention to this one, legal heirs are completely blocked from inheriting, even if they're Indian citizens. And third, you can't just take this to a regular civil court to fight it. It's a completely locked-down system.
So, as you can probably guess, all of this leads directly to some huge controversies. We're talking about a major clash of powerful and totally competing ideals.
And at its core, the debate really boils down to this fundamental conflict. On one hand, the government's intent is to protect national security, right, by managing assets left behind by citizens of enemy countries. But on the other hand, you have the massive impact this has on the property rights of Indian citizens today based on nothing more than their family tree.
And critics have some major issues with this, which really fall into 4 big buckets. First, the fact that those 2017 amendments are retroactive. They apply backwards in time, overturning legal cases that were already decided. Second, the classification itself feels totally arbitrary to many. You can be an Indian citizen, but you're labeled an enemy just because of your ancestry, not anything you've done. Third, there's a real lack of judicial oversight since you can't go to civil court. And finally, there are some serious allegations that the law has been misused to settle political or even personal scores.
But this is way more than just some abstract legal argument. The act has sparked some really high-profile and deeply personal legal battles that show you the real human side of all this.
Probably the most famous example involves Bollywood star Saif Ali Khan and his family, the royal Pataudis. This is a classic story of a massive royal inheritance getting tangled up in the web of this very law.
And when I say massive, I mean it. The stakes here are just enormous. The properties in dispute are estimated to be worth around 15,000 crore rupees. Let me put that in perspective for you. That's well over $1 billion US. Just this one case alone shows you the incredible scale of what's tied up by this law.
So here's the deal with their case. The whole thing started when the last Nawab's eldest daughter moved to Pakistan way back in 1950. The challenge today for the family members who stayed, who've been Indian citizens their entire lives, is fighting that enemy property label. Think about it. Should the actions of one person, more than 70 years ago, be enough to disinherit an entire family line that never left India?
And then you have this other incredible case, the Raja of Mahmudabad. Get this, his family fought and actually won their case in the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. But then the law itself was changed, pulling the rug right out from under them.
Talk about a legal roller coaster. Here's what happened. The Raja moved to Pakistan in the 50s. Decades later, his son, who's an Indian citizen, won the right to inherit in a huge 2005 Supreme Court ruling. A clear victory, right? Wrong. Because then came the 2017 amendments to the Act, and they were written to retroactively cancel out that victory. Just like that, a win in the highest court was turned into a loss. Not by another court, but by a brand new law.
But listen, it's not just about royalty and billion-dollar estates. This law reaches down and affects ordinary citizens, often in ways they never, ever see coming.
And these modern complications are a perfect example. Take Saad Ali's family. They had absolutely no idea their land was considered enemy property until the day they went to sell it. Imagine that surprise. Or, get this, just in 2023, a finance company was trying to take action against a borrower, and the whole thing got stopped dead in its tracks because the entire apartment building was suddenly declared enemy property. And just goes to show how this old, historical law can pop up out of nowhere and completely disrupt modern, everyday life.
So, we've looked at the law, we've looked at the controversies, we've looked at the real people affected by it. So where does that leave us? What's the big takeaway here?
At the end of the day, the Enemy Property Act forces a really difficult choice, and it leaves us with this huge, unresolved question. What's more important, national security or a family's legacy? Where do you even begin to draw that line? And maybe more importantly, who gets to be the one to draw it? That's what's still at the very heart of this whole contested legacy.